back, scientists. I am Mr. Steier, and today we are talking about animals invade. This is a Think Like a Scientist case study, and your goal today is that you can describe how a newly introduced species is damaging the balance of an ecosystem, and you can explain how scientists are using another species to control the population of an invasive species. Now, scientists, as we jump into this today, I am going to tell you that this is a little bit like a scary movie, and it is absolutely mind-boggling what is happening in this invasive species case study with what the scientists are doing. So I know you're going to be as excited about it as I am to talk about it. So first, I want you to think back to when you saw an unwanted insect or other animal in your home. Which, if you are like my children, then you have seen a spider in your house and completely lost your mind. Now, what problems do those unwanted insects or animals, what problems do they cause? Yeah, if it's a spider, they could be giving you a spider bite, which could give you an infection. It could make you sick. Sometimes people have seen mice in their houses, and those are going to eat some of the food that's left out, or they're going to be running around going all over. They're going to ruin some clothing. They could leave, diseases behind and get people sick. So when we have these spiders, what are some ways that they could be removed? Well, we could call an exterminator, we could set traps, or again, if your house is anything like mine, then everyone runs to me and says, Dad, I need you to kill the spider. So whatever it is, we want to remove those pests, those invaders into our homes. We want to get those things out so we can improve our quality of life, our quality of living. And what could happen if that pest problem does not get solved? Well, the number of pests in the home could get completely out of control. And then again, in my house, there'd be a lot of screaming for Dad to come and kill the spiders. All right, so when we jump into this today, what do you think the word invade means? Yeah, some of you just said that you think invade means to enter an area by force or to overrun an area. If you're an invader, you're coming in and you weren't really invited, nobody really wants you there, you're an invader. So when we look at this heading here, animals invade, what do you think this lesson is about? Yeah, some of you have a great prediction that we are going to predict that the red imported fire ant is an animal that has overrun the southern United States. Animals invade! So if we look at our map here, what we're looking at is this is a map that shows how much of the U.S. is infested and how much more could become infested with the red imported fire ant. So we get this fire ant. It is present all over the same area where we had the kudzu, and it looks like it is constantly expanding northward. And there's a potential that over time we could see this red fire ant continue to spread and invade and spread and invade and spread and invade. Like invasive plants, invasive animals can upset the balance of an ecosystem. So we don't want these things here because they could upset the balance of the ecosystem. And we know once that ecosystem gets unbalanced, the food chain's out of whack, the carbon cycle's out of whack, everything is unbalanced. The red imported fire ant is an invasive animal that is causing problems in the United States. These ants have a painful sting. They can kill young birds, mammals, and reptiles. they damage crops and can harm or kill young farm animals. So they work together, they team up, they will take down some of these small birds, mammals, reptiles, farm animals, and just wreak havoc on the balance of an ecosystem, or in a farm system on our global food chain. Red imported fire ants have been invading more and more areas of the United States. They don't have any natural enemies in the United States. So, how can this invasive species be controlled? These red imported fire ants, they are native to South America. They came from South America, and they have no natural enemies. There's no predators in the United States. So how can this invasive species be controlled? So obviously the invader we're talking about is the red fire ant, and the question we're trying to solve for is, how can this native species be controlled? We know that they came from South America, and we know that they don't have any natural predators here. Ha ha! I like what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, well, if they have no natural predators here, did they have natural predators in South America? Something to think about. And just to recap, what are the problems the red fire ants are causing in the United States? If I check back to my text, I can see here they can kill young birds, mammals, and reptiles, and they damage crops and harm or kill young farm animals. So that is how they are causing problems in the United States. And we know that they're moving in all along that southern edge of the United States, and they're working their way north. All right, so we know what the problem is. What could be a potential solution? Recently, scientists have been raising and releasing phorid flies in regions of the United States that have been invaded by the red imported fire ants. Phorid flies are flies from South America, where they are a natural enemy of the red fire ants. Okay, this is where things get a little bit creepy, crazy, and a little bit bonker balls. When phorid flies come near red fire ants, the ants try to hide. The flies keep the ants from searching for food. With less food, the fire ant population cannot grow. Okay, so we've learned that previously. We know that if you can't get the food you need, you're going to die off. You don't have the energy you need to survive. But why do fire ants hide from phorid flies? It seems that around phorid flies, the ants just can't keep their heads. Read the captions to find out why. All right, so here's what happens. So we bring in these phorid flies, right? And we have these red imported fire ants. We bring in the phorid flies, we have the fire ants. This is what happens. A phorid fly lays an egg in the body of the ant. The egg hatches and the larva moves into the ant's head. It begins to eat away the brain. Like a zombie, the ant wanders away from the nest. The larva releases a chemical that causes the ant's head to fall off. The larva continues to feed and develops into a pupa. Finally, the adult phorid fly emerges from the ant's head. And the red fire ant is dead, and we have a brand new phorid fly to hunt down more of this invasive species. Okay, so just to recap here, the solution is scientists bring in a natural predator of the red fire ant. Okay, they bring in the phorid fly. The phorid fly, it attacks the ant, lays eggs in its body. The eggs hatch into a larva. The larva releases a chemical and the head falls off. Then, after the head falls off, a new fly emerges from the ant's head as if it's coming out of a cocoon. So a parasite is an organism that lives on a plant or an animal and harms it. A tick is an example of a parasite that feeds on another animal and harms it. So, do you think this phorid fly is a parasite? I agree. I think it is a parasite. And I think the example we have is because it is harming the animal, it's harming that red fire ant, and it is helping to keep that red fire ant in check. And the fire ant is completely dead after the phorid fly lays its eggs inside of it. Newly introduced species often cause problems in an ecosystem because there are no natural predators or parasites that could control the population of the invasive species. One species of phorid fly is a natural parasite of the red fire ants that live in South America. These phorid flies have been introduced into southern states to help control the population of red imported fire ants. The phorid flies do not harm native ant species. Now, scientists, I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, but wait, Mr. Steier, what you have said is we always have to ask the question, what does it eat and what eats it? So I know that some of you right now are thinking, well, but these phorid flies, do these phorid flies now, are they the invasive species? So how might introducing phorid flies in the United States help control the red imported fire ants? Well, it's going to control the red fire ants because it's going to parasitically attack them, lay eggs in its body, and then pop its head off. They're going to die. The red fire ants are going to become in check, in balance. But what about the phorid fly? Are they now the invasive species that we have to worry about? Well, phorid flies only attack red fire ants. They are unlikely to harm the rest of the ecosystem, but it is always something that we have to be aware of, we have to be intelligent about, and we have to be able to make critical decisions as scientists to know what the best decisions are to make. So we can end on this major question about this fascinating case study. Will the introduction of phorid flies help or damage the ecosystems of the southern United States? There's multiple different answers, and it's one that I really encourage you as a scientist to think about and talk with somebody about, whether that be your teacher, a parent, a stuffed animal, a pet, whoever it is that you feel like you could have an interesting conversation with. I encourage you to talk about that and tell them this fascinating story of the invasive red fire ant and the phorid fly. Moving forward, what I also want you to think about like a scientist is I want you to think about, should there be laws in place to stop visitors and other people from bringing in certain plants and animals? Do you think that that would be an important thing to have? I want you to think, are there other invasive species that you know about? Invasive species that you know are taking over our local ecosystem, that are causing problems in local lakes and rivers, that are causing problems in local fields and farmlands? Are there invasive species that are challenging our ecosystems here? The scientists who studied the phorid fly and red imported fire ants, they needed to determine whether the phorid flies would cause additional harm to the environment. So you have to think, is it important for scientists to make sure that everything is safe before they introduce another invasive species like the phorid fly to the United States. These are all critical things that we're thinking about, like scientists, anytime that we are doing a case study. Moving forward, you're going to be answering a cause and effect question about how do phorid flies affect the behavior of red imported fire ants, and how does this affect the red imported fire ant population? And then you have to evaluate some of your thinking. Are phorid flies an invasive species? And then explain that thinking. I'm really excited for you to do this. I think that you are going to find thinking about this and just talking about this a really exciting proposition and opportunity. And just the fact that we basically have a fly that is turning ants into zombies is also absolutely fascinating. Remember, your goals today are that you can describe how a newly introduced species is damaging the balance of an ecosystem, and that you can explain how scientists are using another species to control the population of an invasive species. So you need to be able to describe what's happening, and you need to be able to explain how those things are being controlled. Thanks for being with me here today. Good luck, scientists. Be a critical thinker and enjoy the idea of zombie ants. Bye.